Health Day with a focus falling on food safety. So right now we are going to be getting some hints and tips from Cindy Chin, registered dietitian from Woolworths, to make sure that the food at home we consume is indeed safe. Cindy, very nice to have you in studio. Lovely to see you again.
Thanks, Ewan.
You know what, it's actually quite a big thing. We don't think about the fact that, we buy food and we come home, we prepare it, we eat it, but there's a couple of things that we need to take into account. So I think firstly, let's start off with the preparation of food. Yeah. What do we need to know?
I think again, common sense things that we sometimes forget, and it's simple things like starting off with clean. So wash your hands with soapy water, make sure that your chopping boards and your utensils are clean to start with, and don't mix your meat, poultry and seafood chopping boards with the rest of your food because of the risk of cross-contamination. And then simple things like washing and peeling your fruits and veggies. If you want to retain some of the nutrients that are often just under the skin of the surface of the skin of the vegetable, then just give it a good scrub. But make sure that your scrubbing brush is clean to start with. So they're very common sense things like that.
That's it. But I say often we overlook these things and forget it. Another question I want to ask you, of course, I think most people go out on a daily basis, they do the shopping. How do we make sure the food stays fresh, basically, on the journey home? Because I'm sure you can't buy food and then, take a trip, go get the kids from school and then go back home.
Actually, we do that.
We do, I know.
Especially in the hot summer. So what Woolworths does is we're very specific with trying to maintain the temperature of our chilled foods constantly from the moment it's produced right through to our distribution centres and then through to stores. And what customers can do once they've purchased the food is to actually just take a cooler bag with them and just put their chilled products directly into the cooler bag, put it in their boot, and then they have a little bit more time to maybe go pick the kids up on the way home. And then as soon as they get home, to actually unpack those foods and put them directly into the fridge so that they're stored below 5 degrees. Because above the temperature, your microbes tend to multiply quite rapidly. So it's important to keep your chilled foods at the correct storage temperature. Another practical thing is thawing food at room temperature. We often do that, but we shouldn't really. We should try to put it into the fridge overnight. It's a bit of forward planning, and defrost it overnight in the fridge. Yeah.
All right, so slow down whatever processes might be going on. But it's nice. So basically just keeping the temperature constant. And I'm sure if you don't have a cooler bag, you can just, if you buy cold things, pack it all in one bag. It might help as well. You mentioned, we spoke about Woolies in terms of the temperature. I know that you guys also do some great pre-prepared meals, which I'm a fan of. On the labels, normally it says in terms of the heating instructions. How important is it to take it quite seriously?
Yeah, it is important to read them properly, to make sure that you're cooking the food to the correct temperature. So particularly foods like soups and stews, make sure that you bring it to boiling temperature. And things like meat, perhaps use a meat thermometer to make sure that you're reaching the core temperature internally, because it might look cooked, but actually it's not necessarily safe to eat. So yeah, those again practical tips.
Practical tips. And lastly, just sticking with the labels. I mean, we all look at it. So the best before, the use by dates on these labels. Once again, how seriously should we take these labels? Is it okay if it's a day or two past?
So we're talking about date marking, and date marking is quite a useful thing to assess shelf life and durability of a product. So, and also talking about quality. So the best before date talks more about quality. So things like bread and cereal and biscuits, which tend to stale with time, would still be safe beyond the best before date, but maybe not as fresh as when you first bought it. So it's still safe to consume. When we look at the use by date, that refers more to so it's microbiologically unstable foods like sushi and pizza and ready-to-eat foods that tend to go off beyond that date. So it's best to then read that correctly, make sure that you follow those instructions, the use by date. If you choose to freeze your food before that date and eat it beyond the use by date, that would still be safe. So again, keeping it at a good temperature so that the microbes can't multiply beyond.
But I think it really applies as well to your things like meats and fish, chicken especially as well.
Especially your meats as well.
That's it. Cindy, thank you so much for joining us. Some really interesting tips, and I'm really hoping that we've given you a couple of tips to make sure that that the food in your family enjoys is indeed safe to eat. But in support of World Food Day, Woolworths customers who are Discovery Vitality members can receive double points today for their healthy food purchases. Get down there and earn those double points. Right now, it's back to the kitchen with Graham and Claire.